everyone? This is Bevin, and welcome to Tales from Tundo, a talkback podcast for Kingdom of Tundo, now available on roguematter.com. Here we go in depth behind the scenes with Tundo creator M.A. Del Rosario. Give it up for M.A. Woo! The Kingdom of Tundo is the last bastion of magic in the world of Mayi, but the land is dying, and only the last scion of the Dula bloodline can save it. Together with myth-folk allies, he tries to unite Tundo and revive it to the glory that it once was. The Kingdom of Tundo is a digital comic book now available at roguematter.com or on the Rogue Matter app, because we're cool and we have an app. Rogue Matter is a digital publishing company that shatters boundaries and colors outside the lines. Check out our website or download our mobile app to start consuming all the free, and yes, I said that, free content we have, including comics, ebooks, podcasts, videos, and more. Join the movement. Go rogue. roguematter.com. And tonight, I am here with my good buddy, the chaser of dragons, M.A. Del Rosario, and we are discussing
Thanks.
what are we discussing? Kingdom of Tundo, issue number
Yes.
1, Myth and
Issue number
Magic
1.
Part 1, The Brothers 5.
Yes.
Here we are. Why 5 brothers? Just out of curiosity.
I don't know. It just popped in. It's
It
it's
popped
one of
in?
those it's one of those things that you're writing the story, and then there should be a family affair there somewhere. So I put in, like, I don't know why 5, not 6 or 7, but it just happened. No reason at all.
I was just curious if there was like a magic number behind it, because I know like 3 is a magic number, triads,
Mm-hmm.
all that stuff. So I didn't know if in your culture 5 was a powerful number that we should all be looking out for.
No, actually, 7 and 9 is a powerful number, but 5 is not really. It's just something that came up. So
Something
I
that
put in
came up.
5. Yeah.
Hey, I like it. We'll run with it. Okay. So, but first, before we get into the issue, this is our first one. So we have to get to know you. We have to get to know
All right.
all about you. So let's
All right.
dive into it.
Okay.
If we go to your website, and your website is
Paperdrawing.com.
great. And on there is your bio. And I love that you kind of start off by saying that you were in the corporate world and then you left
Yes.
it to go chase dragons, which I love that. Can you explain more
Yes.
about what happened around that point that you're like, that's it? I quit. I'm drawing comics.
Yeah, I've been in the advertising business for advertising and magazine for like a couple of years. Well, most of my life, actually. Uh, it bled me dry, and I got burned out because during that time when I was in advertising, I was doing a lot of it was work 24/7. So it burned me out, and I wanted to do something else. I was writing on the side, creating stories, uh, some of them being published there. I tried doing comic books, uh, pitching them to publishers there in the States, but it didn't happen. So I just stuck with advertising, and then it dragged me down, and I got, you know, it just died. So I wanted to do something else, and I was collecting dragons at the time. So I was chasing dragons metaphorically. So there.
It was like Dementors were just sucking out your soul, is basically what you were
Yeah,
saying.
yeah, metaphorically. I can't imagine those guys. The clients. I mean, I just had enough of clients nagging me, running me down my throat, and there, it just stopped.
So you just stopped, and like, it's so brave to just stop. And did you have a game plan? Did you know what you were going to do? You were just like, I'll just figure it out. I don't know. I can't do this anymore. And then what happened next?
For the first couple of years when I was out of the corporate world, I was winging it. I didn't have a job. But I was writing a lot. I had concepts written down all over the place, and one of those concepts was this one, Kingdom of Tundo. It was a good thing, but at the same time, it was kind of a so-so thing, because I was relying on my wife for funds, and I was
Okay.
really pitch poor and didn't have anything. I couldn't really chase dragons because I wanted to buy more dragons, but I couldn't do that. no fun. So I had my dragons in here and the books that I have, the comic books that I have. So it was in there, and it was metaphorically dragons becomes my imagination and just putting all into words and concepts. And eventually, years later, this is the outcome of it. All the struggles.
That's great. I love that. And how did you come to be involved with Rogue Matter?
By accident. Well, no, not by accident, but by persistence. Actually, I had this concept in mind. Well, it's really a pitch of a comic book called The Old Town, one of the stories that I've written and made a like 10 pager, and I sent it to different publishers, including the top Dark Horse and Image, and Rogue Matter was one of them. This was just last year during
Oh,
the
wow.
pandemic. Yeah, I sent it to them, and Roger emailed me back. I was, I'm a guy who is expectant of rejection because
Mhm.
I've gotten a lot of rejections from my stories from publishers, even here locally. So when I got that one, I woke up my wife because that was like 2 o'clock in the morning here. So I woke up my wife and I told her the good news,
Aw.
and it was we talked about it, but you know the old town wasn't completed yet. So Roger asked me, well, what's complete? So I had this book out, which I was selling here locally, Kingdom of Tundo. And I presented him that, and he liked it. And it was, so to speak, downhill from there.
That's so cool. And you said you were selling this and you're where you're from? And tell the folks at home
Yes,
where you're from.
I'm from the Philippines, Quezon City. I live in Quezon City. And we have this online shop called Lazada, and I have a store there. Um, I it actually started with the comic conventions here. So I was selling the book there, and I found out that people were interested in the book. Well, people here are interested in local mythology and the
Mhm.
stories that we come up here. So there are a lot of comic books, independent comic books, coming out here that are based on mythology. I don't know if you know Trece. Trece is one of the most popular ones. um, and then I sold it to our local Amazon, the Lazada, and people liked it. People are buying it even uh, during the pandemic,
Wow.
and then yeah, and that was why I was so brave enough to present it to Rogue Matter, because people here liked it. So I guess, well, the basic idea for why I wrote it in English, because most of the comic books here, some of the comic books here are written in Tagalog, in Filipino, but
Tagalog?
Tagalog, yeah,
I just wanna make
uh,
sure I said that right.
yep, yes, it's the language that we speak here, and most of the comic books that readers like are in Tagalog. And I was so surprised that they liked it, and even though I wrote it in English, which which pushed me forward in presenting it to Roger, because of the fact that it was written in English, and the thought of presenting this to an international audience was actually the basis for why I wrote it in English.
That's pretty cool. I was actually gonna ask if this comic is both written in your native language, Tagalog and English. Is it both being sold in those 2 separate
No,
languages, or it's, just
n-
in one in English right now?
no, it's in English. For one thing, I suck at writing in my native tongue. I
Okay.
can speak it, but I suck at writing in it. Writing something in my language, but I, you know, I grew up speaking English. I was trained because of Sesame Street here, and that's
Yay,
why,
Sesame
yeah,
Street.
right. So I was trained during that. So I grew up like from age 1 to 5, I think, or 6. I was speaking English, and my secondary language was Filipino, Tagalog.
Wow.
That's why I find it hard to write in Tagalog because there are certain words that I don't get right when I'm
Okay.
writing it. But when I'm writing in English, it comes easy. It's free flowing. So there.
I also saw on your bio that you were inspired by a show that I didn't watch, Sectars,
Yeah,
like
sectors.
Sectors. Okay, see, clearly I didn't watch it, even
Yeah,
though I did watch a lot of like Johnny Quest and the
yeah.
Boomerang channel. Did you have Boomerang? The
Right,
channel?
right now, yes, we have right now uh, cable TV, but back then, no.
No, yeah.
We had our own Saturday morning cartoons. Sectors was one of those cartoons. No, Sectors was one of those cartoons that was on another network, which was shown with the giant Robo anime. So
Oh,
that was
wow.
my life. My life before, when I was a kid, that was my gateway to science fiction and fantasy. It was Saturday morning cartoons with Thunder the Barbarian and Thundercats, and then you have the giant
Dude,
Robo. Yeah, and the giant Robo.
I know Thundar the Barbarian. I know that guy.
Yeah, yeah. Sectors was one of those obscure cartoons. That's it ran. I think it ran for just one season.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, like in a couple of episodes. I think 12, if I'm not mistaken. And but I liked it because the cons. I mean, I liked it back then when I was watching because it was fantasy
Uh-huh.
and fantasy and science fiction, something like that. When I bought the comic book, which was published by Marvel, that was when, because I was familiar with the superheroes. I was familiar with the fantasy in cartoons, and I never thought that. Yeah, I was a kid. I never thought that fantasy could be put into a comic book format. And so I was into sectors. I bought that in a used comic book, used bookstore for like a couple of pesos, and I bought it home and I read it and I read it and I liked the art, and I was awed because it was Marvel Comics. Back then my introduction to comic books were the local comic books here, the Pinoy comics. You say it with a K, comics.
Comics?
So comics, yes.
Comics. Got it.
So, and most of the story, they were anthologies, separate stories of fantasy and mostly horror. So when I bought
Oh,
Sectors, it
wow.
was fantasy. It had a nice glossy glossy cover. Our comics here were tabloid paper, newsprint. And so with Sectors, I just, it dawned on me that you can write fantasy in a comic book. And I was
Yeah.
only a kid back then, yeah. And I went to my mom and I said, I want to work for Marvel. I want to
Uh-huh.
draw for Marvel. That was my recollection of it, and I began drawing, stuff of Sectors, and then I got different comic books from the book sale because I couldn't buy a proper comic book back then because we weren't rich. I only had my allowance for like a few pesos, so the used ones were beneficial for me, and it was my gateway drug to comic books back then.
And then from there, you kind of found eventually Neil Gaiman's Sandman, because I also saw
Y-
that that was a huge influence for you.
Yes, a very Neil was a very big influence for me. Um, I actually started collecting comic books when I was in college. X
Wow.
Men, Chris. That was my first. That was my first. Uh, this was during the Image explosion, but my very first comic book was Jim Lee's X Men with Chris Claremont. Um,
Do you have a
and
favorite
I had
X-Men?
everyone goes for Wolverine, but Gambit's one of my favorites. For one thing, he's French. I don't know why,
Ah,
and
isn't
he has
he?
the
He's Cajun,
cards.
right? He's Cajun.
Oh no, no, yeah, he's Cajun. He's Cajun, and he has the cards. And he's that he's different. For me, he was different back then. Now, I don't know. I don't know now. I haven't seen him for quite a while with the current issues. But back then, I was collecting X-Men, and X-Men was the only comic book that I could afford
Okay.
because of lunch money, and I couldn't collect that many until I met. Uh, I had this friend who introduced me to the first trade paperback of Sandman, Preludes and
Yeah.
Nocturne, and I read that, and it blew me away. So when I think it was number 50 that came out, Ramadan. When I read Ramadan, I had the money to buy that. So I stopped with X-Men and shifted to Sandman because Ramadan blew me away. The story, and that was something of an enlightenment for me because I wanted to collect comic books because of the superhero aspect, because it excited me. But uh Ramadan, that issue 50, inspired me to write, inspired me to be a storyteller. And I never thought that it could be that word. You can use a lot of words eloquently, like
Mm-hmm.
how Neil puts it.
Yeah.
And it's fantasy, and it's mythology. It's because I was also doing a lot of Dungeons and Dragons and reading Margaret Wise and Tracy Hickman back then.
And
those
Tolkien.
those
I also saw
and
that.
Tolkien, yes, and
Tolkien. Yeah.
Tolkien. So I never thought that you could write something that is mythic and transcribe it into comic books. Because I saw Elric. There were comic books of Elric, but it didn't appeal to me that much because the books appealed to me more. But when I met Sandman, it wasn't based on any book. That it wasn't an adaptation of a book, and that one just blew me away. And I
Yeah.
started collecting Sandman before, and I also was in a group with there's this artist named Jerry Alangilan. He was part of that group, and we were into comic books. And everyone was collecting X-Men, Daredevil. uh Me, I wanted to be different. The indies always, from then on, yeah, I mean, reading Sandman, and then from then on the indies started to um put an impact on my reading habits. And then I collected Vertigo. I collected after when Sandman was over, I collected Hellblazer and a lot of stuff that's indie. That's also one of the influences for my book. People here are asking, "Don't you draw superheroes?" I said, "Nah, I can't draw superheroes. I can, but the mindset can't. It's always something that's supposed to be different. That's not the norm of fantasy, of comic books here. I mean, fantasy before, because back then in the 90s it's always superhero. When you say comics, it's superhero. It's not fantasy, it's not science fiction, but it's always the superhero genre.
Yeah, I find that even today, for people that are normies or basics, I like to call them basics. They still think comic books mean superheroes, and it's like, man, graphic novels. I mean, Walking
Yes.
Dead's a graphic novel, and like
Yes.
that. There's zero superheroes in that.
Yes.
So when you look at somebody, I like Bill Maher, who says that comic books are superheroes and for kids. It's like, did you read Watchmen? Like that's not it's not
Yeah.
for kids, and it's very thought
Yeah.
provoking. Yes, there's
Yeah.
superheroes in that one, but like there's plenty like Sandman, that's to do with gods, and that has
Yeah,
nothing
it's
to do V
myth.
for Vendetta. Yeah.
Yeah, it's
Archie,
one of them.
Casper.
Yeah, those things.
Yeah, I mean it's comic books is just a type of genre in my opinion. It has nothing to do with, yes, superheroes are probably the staple of what a comic book is, but I mean Snoopy's technically a comic as well.
Yeah, exactly. And it's a stigma. I don't know if you want to call it that, but I think it's a stigma that we should change, because
Mhm.
for me, comic books is a part of literature. It's not art. Uh, Before I met some people here who told me that comic books is art. For me, it's not, because art is subjective. Comic books is narration, telling a story. So it's a part of literature. It should be a part of literature. And that's what I've been telling people. If you bump a book and a comic book, it's the same thing, or a graphic novel. That's why there's that term, the novel, the book inserted into the art, because it's
Yeah.
narration, it's storytelling.
Yes, and I love that basically the art of storytelling is like, especially with graphic novels, it's like two different senses are kind of attacked. It's narrative storytelling, and you're also
Hmm.
painting a picture at the same time. So you're kind of
Yes.
like, and I think that's why they're so easily adapted to TV and screen, is because it's basically storyboards for the filmmakers to work off of. The script is already there, and guess what? So is the story panels that you could borrow or get influenced by, because the artist and the narrator and or the author have painted that picture for you already, which is why we're getting a
Yes.
lot of them.
Yes. It's a
Are you
medium.
It's a medium,
Hmm.
exactly. Are you excited personally for the Sandman TV series, or are you a little skeptical, being a huge fan?
um well, I'm excited, and well, skeptical is like 25% of it.
Okay.
uh I am very excited because Neil Gaiman's attached to it. Although my what do you call this, my real uh skepticism about it is, it's s- Morpheus's eyes. it's
Oh
it's
yeah.
it's one of those quirks. It's one of those quirks when I saw it, because there is a Neil, the Sandman actually has an inscription, or it was told about his eyes, deep black pitches with glimmering, shimmering starlight somewhere in there, and I didn't see that. So it's one of the quirks probably that it's getting used to, but we'll see.
We shall see. And from one set of gods to another set of gods, we're going to enter
Yeah.
the Kingdom of Tundo, which is a
Yes.
real place, but you've made it mythical. Can we kind of break
Yes.
down that? What drew you to want to go and base a real port and make it mythical?
Yeah. Okay. Well, for historical reference, the Kingdom of Tundo was a pre-colonial polity here in, I don't know if that's the term for it, but it was one of the many kingdoms in pre-colonial Philippines. Pre-colonial meaning before the Spanish came here. So there were many kingdoms, and I chose Kingdom of Tondo because, for one thing, its leader, Dula, is quite famous here in the Philippines.
Oh, yeah.
There's actually a school here named after him. So, and there are places here that's named after him. So I wanted to get something that is existing in the real world and place it in a mythic one, for reference, so that people would, for my readers here, are familiar with.
Oh,
They
yeah.
become familiar with the term, and it's a marketing thing for me. It's one
Okay.
of those things that, it's a name drop. It's Kingdom of Tondo. Hey, that's quite familiar. But when they read it, it's mythical. That's why I introduced it like that in the conventions here, and I explained it to them that this is a mythical one. It's mirroring the real world. The world that, I see, and I wish it was, that magic was real, and that
Wait,
the
magic's
gods
not
don't
real?
walk. No, for some people it's not. For me, it's real.
Okay,
Okay.
great. Okay, God, you
Okay.
scared me for a second. I was like, wait, magic's
No,
not real?
magic is real. That's
Okay,
why
great.
I put it. That's why I put the story in there,
Great.
to this place that's magic. That magic is real.
Hmm.
I'd like to, see it, like, it's like what, I don't know if you know the show, Flight of Dragons. There's a spiel there that, Caroline said, imagination is the most potent of all magics, and that's what I believe in. In this world, imagination is magic, and I put my imagination into the Kingdom of Thundo, into a
Great.
real world. So that's the metaphor behind it.
That's really awesome. And it's also based on actual mythology, correct?
Uh, Well, yes, yes, but most of the stuff in there, like the positioning of the characters and some of the places, I just made up.
Oh, great.
But most of it are based on like the tikbalang, that half human, half horse creature.
Centaurs.
It's an inverted centaur,
Yeah,
actually.
it's a reverse centaur.
Yes,
How do you say it again?
tikbalang,
Tikbalan? Did I say it?
tikbalang,
We're gonna
lang, yeah,
lung. Okay.
lang, yeah, tikbalang.
We'll revisit
So,
that word.
y- so I actually here the tikbalang is considered as a demon, as an evil creature. The
Oh.
mythology, the original mythology, but upon research, I found out that there was a Brahmin society back here in the Philippines around 900 or 900 AD or so, and they introduced uh, the religion with the Avatar Vishnu, who look. The Avatar Vishnu is one of those. The Avatar, one of the gods in Hindu religion, and he has the head of a horse and the body of a man, but with four
Ooh,
arms.
I would love to visualize this. If only Aaron could visualize this for me, because I really do love how you draw the tikbalan. Did I say it
Yeah,
right?
tikbalang.
I'm getting close, guys.
So there's that, and so I put one and one together, and I thought that
Ooh.
maybe that tikbalang is not, an evil creature. So uh so I made it into the myth folk, um creatures creatures of myth that exist in the world of Tondo. And in the Kingdom of Tondo, there was a war between the myth folks and the humans.
It's always the humans, isn't it?
Yeah, it's always the humans. It's always
Naturally.
man.
It's always their fault. So and I find that interesting because why do you think it's always we're drawn to always draw that men are the problem? Everything
Because
would be fine if men weren't in the way.
that's true. Well, because I think that's the human flaw.
Mhm.
The human flaw for me is arrogance and ignorance. It's always the two things that for me permeates within the human soul. That's how I see it.
Mhm.
That's why I live by a coda. It's humility and respect. So you got to be humble, and you got to respect the things around you. Now, the human trait for me stems from that basic flaw is arrogance and ignorance. We don't want to admit that we're wrong, and we're arrogant enough to say that we're not wrong. So if no one says no, then there's gonna be a fight somewhere. So that's how I see it.
But there's always like that one Joseph Campbell like hero good man that needs to kind of come in and right the wrongs of the sins of
Yes.
his father, if you will, and that's Bunahu Dula.
Punao Dula, yes.
Bunahu Dula. Woo! He also kind of has like as reading him, he also kind of has like the Aragorn aspect to him. Was I correct in kind of thinking, oh, this is a little Aragorn of him? He's kind of chosen. He kind of doesn't want to, but like he kind of has to.
Yes, yes. I'm actually tackling the monomyth of the hero.
Mm-hmm.
So the monomyth states that the hero must fail and the hero must rise
Yeah.
from his failure and be triumphant. So it's basically that monomyth of a hero. I didn't want to um put in an anti-hero or
Sure.
a villain who becomes a hero. I wanted a hero because this I saw Kingdom of Tundo as an epic, and I wanted something like a Lord of the Rings, but in Filipino style, Filipino taste. So this is something like my Lord of the Rings in Filipino taste.
Yeah, no, I think you succeeded in that because I saw that, especially because I guess with the creatures and the building and the politics and the relationships between the different creatures and humans always fascinated me. I feel like though I'm still gonna need like a family tree to kind of figure out like where Bunau comes from, who like he's part of the five brothers, so he's like the sixth brother, and then
Yes.
he has his parents who are godlike but not quite. They're born from the celestials, correct?
Yes, they were. We have this legend here.
Okay.
The legend of Malaccas and Maganda. Malaccas is strong in English, and Maganda is beautiful in English.
Hmm.
So those they were created by Bathala, the god, who is also the god in Kingdom of Tundo. He's a real deity here. He created the first in the story. He created the first man and woman from a bamboo tree. So the
Ooh.
bamboo tree, yeah, they were inside the bamboo tree, and the bamboo tree just split open, and there's Malakas and Maganda, the two first humans in in Tagalog mythology. So I wanted to create something like that. So, but the thing is, in my version, Bunau's father was created from a separate bamboo, and his mother a separate bamboo as well. So
So the woman was not created from the man's liver, is what you're saying.
no,
Great.
I always
We need our
believe
own
that
tree.
man, yes, a woman should be equal to a man. That's how I see it.
I
That's how
like
it's
you. I'll
supposed to be,
keep
I
you.
guess. Okay.
So okay, so let's break down a little bit of the politics and the family history. So Bonao
All right.
is our hero of
Mm-hmm.
Kingdom of Tondo.
Mm-hmm.
Men have basically fucked it all up, and they've. I'm always fascinated that men have been able to slay all the mythic creatures when the mythic creatures have magic. But this is what has happened because men are greedy, and greedy is
Yes.
powerful, and blah blah blah.
Eh, yeah. Now in Kingdom of Tundo, the myth folks are they're good. They're kind creatures. You know, like the unicorn and all that stuff. They're good, and they don't really want to wage war.
Yeah,
But the thing is, they are forced to war because the humans, come
are
to take your
awful.
land. Yeah, well,
Yeah,
not
they
all of them. Not all of
No,
them.
no, no. Bonao was good. We like
Hmm.
Bonao.
Hmm.
Maybe he will also get a lady friend down the line. We don't know
Like
yet.
what we have right now is Ahmad Lanu is seen here marching through the forest.
Hmm.
He's one of the descendants of one of Bunao's
Brothers.
brothers, right? And it's because of him, he rules with an iron fist. Fear me. I rule here. This is my land. Tondo, this part of Tondo is mine. So, you know, humans. Be-
Kind of like the Emperor or Darth Vader.
yes,
Yep, we got it.
yes,
I'm just
yes,
helping out people that are like, "What is this like?" I'm here for you. It's like Darth Vader.
yes,
Like was his stormtroopers, except we're in Tundo.
yeah.
So Bunahu, when we first meet him in this episode too, he has no memory.
He has no memory. There's a reason for that, but you're gonna see it later on in the
Later
further
on, no
issues. Yeah,
spoilers here.
no spoilers here.
But I do love that you kind of end with a cliffhanger because we don't know who he is, and we kind of hear the tale of the five brothers and kind of how they were blessed and they kind of went off. We don't know where they go yet.
Yes,
No spoilers. But we know that they come back and, I'm sorry, pronounce Bunahu's mother's name for me, please.
Sinag,
Sinag.
Sinag. Yes,
Sinag was
Sinag.
blessed in her older age to be able to still get it on and reproduce. I want some of that juice because that's awesome that she still can do it and but she's so they're so Bonaho's family are gods though, correct?
That blood God blooded. They are blessed
God
with
blooded.
the blood of gods, but they're not actually demigods, something like that.
So
You
they're
can probably say.
demigods. I can
Hmm.
follow this. So they're
Hmm.
demigods, kind of like Hercules.
Yes.
Um, and so they're able to live longer lives like everyone in the Bible used to live long lives. And I have no idea why they live for so long and yet we're not living for so long. But that's the
Yeah.
way it goes. But so they can live long, long lives, basically.
Yes. Yes, they can. Um, Later on, you're gonna find out how many centuries have passed
Wow, hundreds
since.
of years.
Yeah, but there's a reason for that, and no spoilers.
No
There's a reason for
spoilers.
that. Hmm.
No, we're not spoiling. So this is
Yeah.
just basically issue one is kind of the setup of like there were once was five brothers and they were blessed,
Yes.
and then
Yes.
they
It's
fell to
a
the dark side.
it's a setup for the characters. Um, at first, I thought of doing it episodically,
Mm-hmm.
putting in like episode one has a finished story, but it didn't sit well. Didn't sit well because actually Kingdom of Tundo started as a novel.
Oh, nice.
I thought of doing it as a novel, and then I segregated the outline for the five brothers. I mean the parts 1 to 4. It was within that outline of the novel, but it didn't really, it didn't really sit well with when I was writing it. So I considered doing it as a comic book instead.
And I love that. And I again going back to it paints a visual picture with also having some narration involved, so you can kind of feel like you're engrossing yourself into the world. And
Yes.
I was very much enthralled with the politics and the relationships, especially when it comes to family
Mm-hmm.
drama and stuff like that. Then
Yeah.
it's very relatable. Even though this is about demigods, it's still relatable because you're dealing with everyone can relate to family drama.
That's true. I always see that whenever I'm writing a story, it has to be relatable to the audience, whether it's fantasy or science fiction. There has to be something that the audience would see themselves within the story.
Hmm.
It has to be relatable to be interesting, because sometimes if a story goes way off and doesn't capture the audience, it just veers off and it becomes boring.
Yeah.
For me, the way I write is that you have to take aspects of humanity within and
Hmm.
put it in the story. That makes it interesting.
So, in this particular issue, what were your favorite things, like panel wise, narrative wise, that you wrote and sketched into the first issue?
uh the first page, actually, the first
Oh, yeah?
page was, yeah, it's one of the first and the second page was one of my favorites, because I remember writing that on no, I mean doodling that on a stormy night, because like I said, it was supposed to be a novel, but I found myself drawing panels, and I was bummed out with advertising. But this was around, I think, 2008, 2009, or something like that. I was out of advertising. I was out of the corporate world, and I was doodling, and it was a stormy night, and then it just clicked. It was in my head. I got out of bed. I drew it, that first panel, and then went downhill from there. Story in creating the story. Also one of my favorites is that action scene where one of the brothers gets the tree and throws it to smashes it to Brunao, and then Brunao grabs the tree and then throws the tree, because it's supposed to be I drew it separately, but when I put the pages together, it was like, wow, it's there's one flow. So it's one of those
Nice.
little accidents that I'm happy with. And overall, I guess if those were my first, the second were all of it. I
Yeah.
don't really yeah, all of it, drawing all of it, because it was painstaking for me. And there was a time, if I was trying to decide if this was the right artwork for it, because honestly, during that time, I never considered myself a good artist. I knew how to write, but drawing wise, drawing comics, I considered myself a failure, which is, looking back right now, it's kind of wrong for me to say that. But during that time, it was something like that. And then I saw I was flipping through my comic books, and I saw issue 74 of Sandman with John J. Muth as the
Uh-huh.
artist. He was doing um, brush strokes for the story, and I never thought that you could do something like a Chinese or Japanese sumie for a comic book. And I just realized that, hey, if he can do it, maybe I can do that, because I was also practicing my brush strokes back then. So I did that, and it worked well.
No, I think it's really beautiful. I think artwork also brushes, if you will, the tone of
Yes.
how people should intake the material.
Yes. And I'm not I tried, during the 90s I tried the Jim Lee style,
Yeah.
the Will Sportatio style. But it didn't work out for me until later on. Actually, later on, around 2014, 2015, when I found out about this artist named Sergio Topi, which you will find the artwork style um, advancing throughout the from issues 1 to issue 7 later. You will
Ooh.
see, actually you will see the growth of how I now draw, because for me it's been a journey.
Mhm.
Kingdom of Tundo has been a journey for me, art wise, because I was still studying how to do it, how to properly panel it, the concept behind it, the metaphor and the idea that I'm gonna put into, because it's not just paneling for me. It's not just drawing, but it's art. I've done exhibits before. I did visual art before. I had shows. Uh, but putting that thought into creating the process of drawing Kingdom of Tundo was something special for me, and you will see the difference in the art later on.
Ooh, what a great way to segue to the end of our podcast, because we want you to keep reading and keep learning more about Philippine folklore. So, I have one question. Before we go, tell the folks at
Mhm.
home, where can we follow you? Where can we find you on the interwebs, on the social channels, on
Uh,
TikTok, even?
okay, you can follow me on Facebook and Instagram at Paper Drawing Studio. That's one word, and at Twitter with the handle at paper_drawing. Or you can drop by my website, just paperdrawing.com.
Excellent, MA. Well, this has been a great, fantastic first episode, but we still have more to discuss, but you have to read the other issues first. So until next time, I'm Bevin, and this has been the Tales of from Tundo.